Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you guys are at. I hope you're having a fantastic day. It's SoulSaint here, and we've had some inklings in the community. It looks like there was a post that was released by Plarium that was taken down pretty quickly that may have had something to do with potentially what may be considered the new fusion. Now, we were, amongst the community, able to grab some screenshots from it, so I'm actually going to break this down, and we don't know if this is 100% going to be the fusion or not, and I want to kind of preface it and say that the Brugard Gyro Bomb is going to be someone that's released in tandem with September's release champions, or maybe going into October or something around those lines in terms of champion releases that we're going to be getting. So amongst the four that we've already kind of gotten some inklings about, this one might be the fifth one. I'm not entirely sure, but we'll break it down, get speculations out, and see how we feel about this overall champion pool option selection type deal. So, Brugard is going to be a legendary force defense champion from the Ogren's tribes. I think Ogren's is one of the more weaker ones from the legendary standpoint. That could use some love, for being honest. He's going to have an A1 Stout Smash. Attacks one enemy 2 times. Has a 35% chance of decreasing the cooldown of a random ally skill by 1 turn. Very similar to Ankora. If an ally had their cooldowns decrease, also fills that ally's turn meter by 10%. A little bit different from Ankora. This chance is bookable up to a 50%, so it's a 50-50 coin flip to get some turn meter as well as a cooldown reset. That's not bad. Also comes with some damage increase modifiers with the booking side of things. A2, this round's on me. Removes all debuffs from all allies. Heals all allies by 15% of this champion's max HP. Also heals each ally by an extra 2% for each debuff removed from them by this skill. Places a shield buff on all allies equal to 15% of this champion's max HP for 2 turns. So not only are you cleansing everybody, you're healing them by 15% of his HP, and then the heal is also expanded upon for every debuff that's removed by this champion skill. And then, of course, it places the shield buff equal to 15% of this guy's HP. Now, not only does it have amplified healing on the book side, it's a 5-turn cooldown, bookable down to a 3-turn cooldown, which is not bad. It's a pretty good cleanse. That's not bad. That's solid. That's solid for a support champion. Last Orders, the A3 has a 75% chance of increasing the duration of all enemy debuffs by 1 turn. Okay. And then it also has a 75% chance of increasing the duration of all ally buffs for 1 turn. So debuffs get cleansed in a sense. Increasing the debuffs and then increasing your buffs. And then it fills the turn meter of all allies by 20%. This is a 5-turn cooldown, bookable down to a 4-turn cooldown. And of course, the chances are booked up to 100% in total. So basically, it's guaranteeing to increase debuffs and increase buffs for your team and enemies subsequently. That's not bad either. That's pretty solid. This is a straightforward kind of combination between like Pythion's cleanse that also heals for each debuff removed, and Core's ability to reduce cooldowns as well as giving a little bit of turn meter boosting in between, and then of course buff extenders, debuff extenders, increase turn meter. He's kind of like a mix of like a lot of champions put into one. Kind of like some good pieces of every single one of them and let it go, right? So it's not bad. It's not bad. A little bit lacking in the creative element, I feel like, but it's not too bad nevertheless. Absolute Legend. Passive effect. Turn meter reduction effects used against this champion are decreased by 50%. That is actually interesting. Also fills his champion's turn meter by 20% whenever stun, freeze, sleep, provoke, fear, true fear, petrification, or sheep debuff is placed on an ally. If there are multiple champions on this team with this skill, the effect is only activated once. So I almost want to say this is where the creativity kind of kicked in, maybe, but it's like almost there. So turn meter reduced effects, and this is the first thing I saw when I thought about when I saw this passive was Armand's, who's very relevant in the meta today. Turn meter reduces on his A2 as well as stunts, which is 2 parts of this passive effect that kind of gets managed in some sense or gets addressed in some sense. Instead of losing the amount of turn meter you would normally lose with Armand's, you only lose half of that, and then of course the turn meter increase of the turn meter. Whenever someone gets stunned could be a nice little way to kind of maybe be a pseudo counter towards it. I would like for this champion in particular to be immune to turn meter reduction and instead fully turn meter buffed, and that way it guarantees that he gets in on the fight to maybe turn the tide. Nevertheless, the turn meter reduction will still occur, so if you're not under like Stone Skin, for example, the stun effect and the the turn meter reduction. The turn meter reduction happens no matter what, as long as it doesn't weak hit. And then, of course, the stun, if you're not under block debuffs, kind of happens then too. Or Ancora / divert stun effect kind of composition, being in play. He has an active effect too as well, which is whenever stun, freeze, sleep, provoke, fear, true fear, or petrification / sheep is removed or expires on an ally, it fills their turn meter by 20%, so kind of getting some value back out of it. If there are multiple champions on this team with this skill, this effect only activates once. It does have a cooldown effect, which is bookable down to a 2-turn cooldown. I guess it's kind of in line. To me, when I read this champion, my first initial thought was they are trying to give somewhat of an approach to make this champion a counter to Armand's, because Armand's is very strong. Making him force affinity versus a magic affinity means that he's more likely to be prone to weak hitting, which means that you may not get turn meter reduced or stunned at all, meaning that you just net gain 20% of the turn meter, which is not bad. He has a cleanse that allows him to kind of flip the script on the control that Armand has, as well as having some extra effects to be able to benefit off of that A2/A3 that Armand has and brings to the table. It almost feels like it's there, but it's almost like it's not enough, because I feel like although this effect is this is in the direction of a counter towards him, I feel like Armand's overall, because of the value of his kit being so strong, he's going to be able to lap. So the active effect of the pass is going to be kind of hard. And if you do succeed at reducing the turn meter of this champion, it's a little bit of pressure. It can still add to that momentum of oppressiveness that can be kind of hard to manage. Nevertheless, is this worthwhile? I would almost say yeah. It's not bad. It's almost there, and that this is subject to change too, because like I said, this is something maybe they weren't intending to release right out the moment. Let me finish off this kit, and then we'll kind of break down some more thoughts about this. Increases ally accuracy in all battles by 60%. Very, very good if you're looking to hit some accuracy checks, which for the most part, I don't feel like you need to worry about that too much outside of the A3 increasing the duration of enemy debuffs. But nevertheless, this champion screens like a really good, solid support in the aspect of being able to cleanse, heal, buff, shield, and of course reduce cooldown and turn meter boost. He's like a jack of all trades. He's the master of none, but he's pretty solid. Pretty solid. I actually want to get in game real quick and see if his heal is 15% of the max HP and an additional 2% for each debuff removed. So 15% straight up, and then 2% for each debuff. Let's take a look at Pythion, whose A2 is the exact same thing. Removes, then heals them by 10%, so 5% net gain on the new champion, and then a 5% extra for every debuff removed. So it's like skewed and almost balanced out in a sense. Now, the difference maker is that the A2 on Python puts a block debuff, so the debuff doesn't happen again. Whereas on this champion, you get a shield, which gives you a little bit more protection in that sense. So more protection on one side, more preventativeness in a sense of debuffs on the other side. So there's two sides of a similar coin in a sense, but maybe not exactly the same coin. Not bad. And you kind of can see the synergy. Another thing we'll point out too is what I was talking about with Ancora. Her A1, I think, is also a 50% chance to flip the cooldown. So booked up, yeah, it's about 50-50, and it resets the skill by 2 turns, whereas his is a 1 turn. Also a 50%, but it also has a turn meter boosting effect if it does. Whereas Queen and Chorus is a heal, based off of the fact that there was nothing to remove. And then of course the buff increase and debuff increase is also kind of very reminiscent to a lot of the champions. Turn meter boost by effects by 20%. It's not the highest in the game. Think Arbiter's 30%. I think similar to Shuzen. I think even Arbeus, for example, has one that's pretty high up there from a 30% standpoint. So there's definitely higher in that regard. But I will say that there is some champions that are kind of comparable. You have a 20% from Morgan, for example. So it's still pretty good. I think you get a lot of value out of this champion who, if you need all of those things built into one, he kind of can, even if they're not the most exponentially powerful versions of those. It's still nevertheless really, really good, and I think that's something that people can kind of maybe see some value out of. So with that being said, I don't know how we feel about this champion. I kind of am interested to explore the dynamic of how he would be potentially a counter towards Armand's, but at the same time too, is it enough? And I almost want to say not fully, and I guess maybe that may not be too bad because you don't want to fully remove the viability of a champion, but I do think that this champion is very, very strong. He's like a top pick If you don't have him, you're banning him. If you do have him, it's getting banned. And that just kind of attests to how strong this champion is right now. So in that same regard, having a counter to him may be necessary, even if it's in the most lightest of sense. Maybe be a little bit more aggressive, where like this champion 100% has his way in to the fight to be a direct address to it. That could be pretty cool. That could be pretty cool. And there's a lot of ways you can kind of maybe manipulate some effects of this and whatnot. So, you know, there's still some like counterplay that I feel like even Armand's could deal into Brugard, and same for Brugard into Armand's. And I think that might be healthy, because we like that interactivity in the game that allows us to explore approaching a fight differently and more mechanically and more methodically, right? Anyways, with that being said, you guys gotta let me know what y'all think about this. Is this if this so happens to be our next fusion, are you going to go for it? I think for me, at the possibility that there is maybe an adjustment to some of the skills to make it a little bit more tactful, more aggressive, then yeah, I would say probably we could check it out. In its current form, if this is going to be the case, I think it's a maybe. I think it's a maybe yes, though. I am leaning more inclined to try it out and see what we can feel from it. But nevertheless, I think you guys gotta have to see it in action, just like me. I'm one of those type of people. I'll see it when I believe it type of deal. When it comes to the viability of a champion, and we want to get it in action before we go any further. Anyways, you guys let me know what you think about this Brugard guy. And with that being said, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and as always remember, stay ascended.